Hajime! Welcome back to the Comic Book Dojo. JT McRoberts, the original Comic Book Ronin, here with you once again. And today we're going to have a little live stream, vlog, chit-chat, back and forth discussion about today's topic. No one cares about your politics in your comic until they do. AKA the problem with modern comics, or why modern comics suck. Or if this was a Stanley Kubrick title, you would combine all of those together in one. So, what are we here to talk about? Modern comics. Why people think they suck, or why they think the creators suck. Because no one cares about your politics. Now, you know, I don't like to call people out unless they've given me express permission, or if I think there's some kind of multi-millionaire that won't give a darn what I say about them, one way or the other. The rest of us, we're all, you know, working creators trying to make a living, and I just think it's poor form, you know, to specifically call out various, you know, individuals, especially at the independent level, or even at, you know, like the entry level of the bigger companies. So rather than use examples of specific examples of why they're bad, I thought we'd use some examples showing some good things, good politics in comics, so to speak. Specifically, let's talk about the X-Men a little bit. This is how you do politics right in comics. There are a lot of bad ways to do it. For example, I probably should have pulled an example to show you, like the Green Arrow, Green Lantern series by Danny O'Neill and Neil Adams. Very, you know, short-lived run. It could only, you know, produce a number of actual stories dealing with real-world problems and real-world politics until you realize that superhero comics are not designed to handle them in that literal, straightforward fashion. Superheroes, comic books, they work best when reduced to metaphor. You know, even something like Mouse has a level of metaphor to it that enhances the literal realism to the rest of it. That's what made the original X-Men stories potentially powerful. I mean, when you go back and you revisit these issues individually, they don't really jump off the page, although, you know, there are some really classic issues, some classic moments. It was more the framework and the architecture, you know, the entire foundation behind the idea of good mutants versus evil mutants and why they're fighting and this and that. The notion of a group of outcasts. It was by keeping them as outcasts is what helped make that metaphor powerful. When it's not nailed down, it's not concrete. Okay, the subtext is kept under the surface. Okay, for example, okay, let's choose any number of hot button topics that the X-Men could represent nowadays. Like, they're not literally gay. Okay, I know in modern days there's been a push to make pretty much all of them gay. You know, we're not talking about so much directly about that, even though I am, because you could see the original stories as being about the politics of, you know, how gays were treated, how they were outcasts to society, that sort of thing. But it retained its power by keeping that as subtext. They never literally say, this is X, this is what they are, this is why they're outcasts. No. And then being outcast as mutants, you know, anyone could project into that. Anyone that's been marginalized or feels marginalized could project themselves into the story. And that's how they help gain their following, gain their power. No one cares about your politics. That goes in the comic, that goes outside of the comic. You know, we live in this disgusting world. We're in the digital age. We live in this disgusting influencer riddled world of social media. Everyone feels like that one has to build some sort of social media following and have some sort of social media presence in order to just be an active creator. And in some ways that is true. I mean, definitely at the independent level, we have to have some way for people to potential, you know, customers, viewers, consumers to interact with us at some sort of physical level as a form of raising awareness, of promotion. You know, if we don't have the Disney or Marvel machine behind us, or the Warner Brothers slash DC machine behind us, people are not necessarily going to seek out your books unless they're made aware of it somehow. People don't care about your politics until they do. Okay? So it may seem like the thing to do is to politicize everything, no matter which side that you consider yourself. Okay? But it's not, because you run the risk of alienating people. Okay? And we see that today with a lot of independent creators that are literally choosing sides. Like, I haven't chosen a side. Like I always say, I love and hate everyone equally, probably hate more than love. But if you meet me face to face, I'm sure we could chat about comics or storytelling or filmmaking or one of those things. You know, I could tell you why I love X-Men, you know, that sort of thing. But people who put their politics out there, they run that risk of chasing off everyone that disagrees with their political view, no matter what it is, no matter which side you're on, up, down, left, right, backwards, forwards. If you stake your claim on the left, anyone who thinks they're right is going to immediately dismiss you. If you stake your claim on the right, anyone who stakes their claim on the left is going to immediately dismiss you. You lose potential viewers, customers, consumers, readers. Your work loses power when it becomes literal. You know, I'll talk about stuff that I don't really know what I'm talking about. Like, I got the way that I best came to understand the way subtext and archetypal heroic storytelling functions is by reading Joseph Campbell's original Hero with a Thousand Faces. There's some guys out there like Professor Jeff Clock who absolutely hates Joseph Campbell. I've never been able to quite pin him down as to why he hates him, but I would love to hear it. Myself, you know, Campbell is my Bible. But also Bruno Bettenhelm's The Uses of Enchantment, or is it the Reasons for Enchantment? Something enchantment. Now I'm forgetting the title, but it's what happens when you consume this stuff. And you know, I'm not presenting it as some kind of seminar here. But they talked about, you know, especially with Bettenhelm, about how fairy tales had deeper meaning, about the princess kissing the frog. It's not about a princess kissing a frog. It's really kind of sort of about princess's first sexual encounter. There's a grossness to it, but after she does it, she gets used to it. Now he's a prince. I'm using that as a simplified, way to explain it. Is you can break down all of the classic fairy tales in some fashion or another like that. Another great example of keeping one's politics beneath the surface, we'll go into another medium. Let's talk about George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. Okay, you could see it as a film about Cold War politics. Everyone's divided. You could see it as a film about today. Okay, everyone's divided, left, right, up, down, backwards, forwards, what have you. But none of that is in the film. None of it is explicit in the film. Okay, it's about people surviving against this onrush of the living dead, right? So here we go. Name drop. So, ba-ding! When I met George Romero when he came to North Carolina for the American Zombie Film Contest, I talked to him and I asked him, did you try to make Night of the Living Dead about Cold War politics? Or I asked him something specific about, were you trying to, tell this story? If you've seen my interviews with John Carpenter, I asked him kind of the same thing. Do you set out to tell a message? And Carpenter was direct and he was simple, and I think he hated me just for asking him that question. He said, no, it's about the stories for me. Everything else is superfluous. Okay. And Romero's answer was, no, it's just about people not getting along. I'm losing my lights here, sorry. He wanted to tell the story about people not getting along, where if they had just worked together, they probably would have survived that night of the living dead when they're stuck in that farmhouse. If they would have just listened to each other and just worked together. And he said, he didn't set out to have any kind of great political subtext or meaning behind it all. It's just, you're in the shower, this is the way he said it, you're in the shower, man, and suddenly you just have an idea. And you take it and you put it in film, man. That's all I was doing. So anytime you talk to these great creators and you say, like, did you want to do this? Did you want to do that? They'll almost invariably tell you no. I just had this simple idea. I wanted to tell this story. And in the way that it's told, it provides this, provides this fertile ground for the viewer interaction to place what they see as their politics or their statements or what have you into the work, because it's not explicit. So here in the modern age, we've got people planting all these political flags, instantly alienating each other, okay? Like we recall the recent hubbub over Mark Waid saying, burn it all down. On one hand, I can understand what he's saying. If I've interacted with someone to the point where they're just obnoxious about their politics, they say abhorrent things, they support horrible, abhorrent things, no, I don't want to work with them. No, I don't want to be around them. No, I choose to just go somewhere else. But I'm not going to actively try to tear those people down. That's me. I'm not going to actively try to keep them from being creative, try to keep them from reaching their audience. No, we're just going to go our separate ways. It's okay. You do your thing. Play your political game. If I'm sick of it, if I don't want to be a part of it, I'm not going to watch your videos. I'm not going to buy your book. I'm not going to interact with you on social media. But I'm not going to actively gainsay anything you do. I'm not going to actively participate in bringing about your downfall. It's foolish. The comic sphere is big enough, the storytelling sphere, whether it's films, comics, novels, prose, music, it's big enough for everyone. The audiences are out there that are big enough and varied enough for everyone. Okay? Today, the world's been so politicized that we're almost perfectly divided 50-50. Okay? So you can either say, hey, there's all these riches to be gained by me preaching this political view. Possibly. But there's also a lot to be lost by staking that claim. Okay, and we're seeing some of it. We're seeing some of it play out. There was a rise for one type of political view in comics. It seems to be faltering. There's a rise of one type at the independent level. Will it sustain itself? Will it falter? Ultimately, it comes down to, or it should come down to, the strength of the work. If it succeeds, it's because the work was good. And if it fails, it should fail because the work was not good. Succeeding on just one pure political view, that's pure gimmick. That's straight up trickery. John's turn tricks. And that's all you're doing, okay? We're not about that in the Comic Book Dojo. We like to go deeper. We like to look deeper. At least I like to pretend to. Okay, have you noticed what I'm wearing? Check that out. Bada boom! TB12, baby. That's right. This weekend is the final game of the regular season. Tampa Bay takes on Charlotte Panthers. I apologize to all my fellow Charlotteans. I am a Tampa Bay fan. I always have been because I live down south originally. That's how I know about politics. I have seen Klansmen walking the streets. I have seen with my own eyes burning crosses in schoolyards or in churches. I have seen backdoor racism, the way people are treated when only a certain type of people are around, what they say, what they do. I've seen it. I've lived through it. That's why I'm telling you, it is real. It is still here. And the best thing about these past now 5, 6, 7 miserable years is we're seeing this sickness come to the forefront. Okay, and like any illness, it has to come to a fever pitch before it can die out, before it can be dealt with. Like any boil, it has to come to the surface in order to be excised. Okay, that's the best thing about it. But talking about the creators, okay, Tom Brady, one of the most beloved / most hated individuals in the game of football, the greatest quarterback of all time, the GOAT, aka the GOAT, okay, might have some political views that I disagree with, but why am I wearing his jersey? Because he's not obnoxious about it. Because he doesn't put his politics in the forefront. Like, these are my ridiculous political views and you should follow them too. You know, he never chose to use his platform as a platform for his politics. He just played football and he had his politics outside of his life. I respect that. I appreciate that. That's why I'm wearing this one, to support my team Tampa Bay as we win this weekend and head into the playoffs and push towards the Super Bowl. We're going to see what happens there. But two, just as an example of how you can separate the politics from the artist. We don't have to burn everything down. The game of football does not have to be destroyed because there are people in it with stupid views, okay? All of comicdom does not have to be destroyed because there are people in it that are, you know, making their politics, pushing them to the forefront, alienating audiences, losing the true power of subtext, the true power of the metaphor. The outcast of the X-Men, it could be any disenfranchised group. Any group. That's what made it powerful. That's why people look at that and they go, oh, I relate to that. I understand that. As soon as you say, no, they're all this. No, they're all that. Well, now everyone who's not this or that looks at it and goes, I can't relate to that anymore. I don't understand. I can't comprehend that. Another good example I thought was Grant Morrison's work on Animal Man, because he deals with the politics of activism at one point, and he pushes it to the forefront, but he does it in a way to show a positive light and a negative light. That's a view I can respect, because he doesn't just push his political view like this is what you should do. But he shows a little of both. That was better. That's one good way to handle it. Okay? Because no one cares about your politics until they do. And once they do, they're either totally committed, they're just going to buy whatever crap that you're churning out just because your politics align with theirs, or they care about it in that they're not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. They don't like your politics, so they're not buying your comic book. See how that turned out? So, my message to you, my message to myself, whomever is listening, keep your subtext in the subtext. Use the power of the metaphor. Use the power of the myth. That's where the power of real storytelling lies. That's why a simple story like Star Wars can be interpreted in a myriad of ways. The dark shadow figure, okay. The young aspiring hero, these archetypal characters. They're not necessarily pinned down to any sort of political view, but they're presented in a way where they can represent various political views without being overt about it. I haven't seen the latest Doctor Who episodes yet, but I've heard the backlash from them. I'm going to watch them. Maybe I'll do a follow-up and I can pick out where they were right and where they were wrong, or where it was all wrong or where it was all right, mind you, okay? I couldn't watch all of the Jodie Whittaker Doctor Who stuff. It's nothing to do with Doctor Who being female. I don't have a problem with that. It has to do with, if you know me, you'll know I have told people this for years. The worst episodes of Star Trek and Doctor Who are the ones where they are on Earth. Those are the worst. They are boring. I do not want to see those. If I want to see cowboys or Nazis, I will go watch a cowboy show. I will watch a show about Nazis, okay? I probably just got shadow banned because I said the N-word, but those are the worst episodes. Every time I tried to watch a Jodie Whittaker episode, they're all on Earth. I don't want it. I do not want it. No one cares about your politics until they do. And they're either going to swallow it down, it doesn't matter what kind of direct you produce, or they're just going to push it away. Have nothing to do with it. So think about it. Do like Carpenter said. It's all about the stories. I find a good story, find a way to tell it. And you'll find when you start telling that story, and you stay true to that story, stay true to its themes, that you can start to put those things in there and underneath. You don't have to have the characters turn and look into the camera and say, guns are bad, okay? Drugs are bad, okay? Eating animals is bad, okay? You show it through the story. And you do it in a way where people don't realize that's what they're being told. Otherwise, you're preaching to the choir. No one else wants to hear it. You're producing a track, a chick track, essentially. No one wants to read that, okay? Use the power of the metaphor. Use the power of the subtext. Or what you think those things are. So who knows? I don't know. Smarter people than I have told me, that's what they do. They just tell the story. They just get an idea, man, in the shower. Like Romero said. Take that idea, run with it. If you really want to reach people, though, you'll figure out how to keep all your stupid politics out of it. And hopefully you'll keep them out of your social life, your social media life. Unless you're John Lennon and you have this platform and you have a voice and you say, okay, I am going to use this platform, I'm going to use this voice for this, then leave it alone. Leave it alone. Because you're probably not going to enact any sort of change whatsoever other than alienating people that would potentially follow your product. Okay? So maybe I'll follow up on this by watching the new Doctor Who. I don't like to talk about the new Star Wars or Marvel stuff anymore because they don't need me to do it. I'm not going to shill for those guys anymore. Okay? There's enough people talking about the good and the bad of both. It's a multi-billion-dollar corporation. They own the entire world. Not going to talk about them anymore. So I'll find something else I could talk about. Maybe the new Doctor Who. Because I see a lot of people being upset about the politics being put into that. So that's all. That's all I had to say. Hopefully you pick up a little something from this and you can apply it to your work. And if you appreciate anything that I share here on the channel, make sure you're subscribed, like, comment, all that stuff. Give me a little bit of feedback. And eventually you're going to see a link down there that sends you over to buy my graphic novel. Okay, so I'm working on it. And one day it will be ready, and I'll have to go back across all these videos, and I'll put the link up, and you can go down there and click and go buy it. Hey, maybe it's there now, but not today. But maybe when you see this in the future. Yes, you in the future. You in the back there. Okay, that's all from me today. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Mate, and go Bucks.